Good evening. How y'all doing? Good. Um, Lord Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for giving us this opportunity to meet once again in your home. Thank you for uh, safely bringing us to our destination. I ask that you prepare our hearts to be willing and receiving of your word tonight, and that it goes deep into our hearts and that it is applied into our lives. Um, Once again, thank you for your provision. Thank you for this opportunity. And I thank you in advance for what you do within us and how it impacts others. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
All right, so you earned the right to do it again next week. Okay, that's good. Uh, uh, right. So we want to, and there's one passage that we're going to work through, and really going to walk through this, but asking a question. So most of you who are here and people who may be tuned in, pretty much would say you've chosen to live for Christ. Would that be accurate? So, but what does that really mean? What does that really mean? What does that really mean? I'm going to kind of make sure and grab the one to help you out whenever you find it, because we're going to determine what does that really mean, because that's what we're going to spend the time talking about tonight. What that really means and what it ought to. Now, but we need to use it right now. In the meantime, right? And because we talk about it, but does it look like it? Okay.
I think to make that decision looks like allowing Him to live through us, also choosing to deny ourselves, um, choosing to be disciplined and uh, consistent in reading our word, and also not just reading and hearing it, but also applying it to our lives. So a level of accountability as well.
All right. So let me say this a little bit. Now, somebody could be hired to work somewhere, and they show up on time and they leave on time. But in between all of that, they may not be getting a whole lot done. But it looks like they're a great employee because they're there on time and they leave on time and they don't complicate everybody else's life. But does that really mean that they are a good employee or they're an asset? Does that really mean that? So do you know that when it comes to the faith, a lot of people come on time, they show up on church, they read the Bible at a certain point every day, they read X number, and they do all of that and they do good deeds, but it's that in between stuff of where we're here. See, we can blow the roof off when we come to church. We can really look like soldiers and saints and high rollers, and we could really look the part. Literally, the new life, this changed life is about how do you engage life circumstances and other people. Changes. In other words, uh, the changed life is about change. It's about changing and how do you adjust to changes and how do you adjust to people when you really don't know where they're going to be coming from today. That's what the changed life looks like. Are you looking? Is there some indication? Is there something about you that separates all of that? And that literally is what the changed life looks like. It's not just, I'm picking up where I left off. It literally is a difference between what you were and what you are. And if at any point you believe that because of how you and where you've gotten to today is good enough for your tomorrow, then that's some indication of how thrown off you are, because today is not tomorrow, and whatever it was yesterday is not the same either. So we just drop that out there for you to be able to say, now, how do you receive that? How do you hear what's being said? How do you struggle through or grow through some of the things when you find yourself facing dilemmas and you're not navigating them very well. You're not navigating them very well. We just this is just talking to you. You got to talk back to me because again, how you talk determines how much I talk and what I talk about. It always does.
Can you restate that question, Pastor? How are we navigating?
How are you navigating life circumstances and people when you really don't know how people are going to respond? You really don't know. Now, sometime we'll say, I know them. This is unlike you. I can't believe you're doing this. Well, by all means do. Because that's a part of them too. That part that you never thought you would see is still them. It's still them. Did you know that a lot of time when the elderly go into the hospital, they start seeing behavior in them that people say, I just can't believe they're that mean. They were mean all along. You just had not experienced it at that level. They were already terrorists. They were already emotional terrorists. Now they just can't get up and do what they want to do, and they give people the blues. They cause problems with healthcare professionals and all the other things. And that was really them. That was really them. All along. All along. They didn't all of a sudden get like that day because they were in the hospital. They were that. Already. Yes, ma'am.
I had two that I can think of. So, how do I navigate through a situation when I don't know how the other person is going to respond? One was we were at an event in my aunt's house, and her boyfriend is Muslim, and they asked Michael to pray. I was like, oh man, it's gonna be a problem. And I was nervous and I had to check myself. But Michael did what he was supposed to do. He prayed in Jesus' name. And they all received it. They was amen and amen and stuff. And I was like, why was I stressed out, about that? We just do what we do. It's who we are. So I had to check myself about that. And the other one is my
You thought Allah was greater.
no.
Okay. I'm just
I just thought it was gonna cause a problem. That's all.
all right.
Yeah, I ain't want no trouble.
Right. All right.
The other one is my team lead is Jewish, which, anyway. So she was going through, I actually got a chance to minister to her today, but the whole time I ministered to her, I'm wondering, like, I hope I don't say the wrong thing because I know they have certain, like, she can't even type the word G-O-D. She puts a space in between G and D because it's so holy, they're not supposed to type it. And I'm like, but you be saying all these curse words. Are you really a religious person? She's Jewish, she's not a Christian, but I'm like, so when I'm trying to minister to her, I'm in my head trying to figure out, like, I don't want to say anything to offend her. She knows who I am. So just say it, but maybe you shouldn't say that. So I
So
need
what
some
are you
help.
really concerned about?
I'm concerned about her response or concerned about offending her. And I know I shouldn't be.
Did
That's why I
Jesus
need help.
did you hear about something that Jesus said one time and he said it loud and clear?
If you're ashamed of me.
Yeah, so you already know it, right?
Yeah, I know.
Okay, all right. All right, now put that in line with what you just said.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right.
She doesn't have any problem in saying what she's going to say, does she? Did you notice that the Muslims don't have any problem in saying what they're going to say, right? They have no problem. They don't care how many, quote, Christians are in the room. It's the spirit of timidity. It's the issue of timidity. 2 Timothy 1, it's a spirit of timidity, and we tend to shrink because we step into please mode. We step into please mode. And now what that does, that triggers our pre-Christ stage, because our Christ stage comes with the package of not a spirit of timidity. It comes with power, love, unsoundment. In other words, a level of boldness and courage that comes with the package. So when we shrink back that way, we've stepped back into our pre-Christ. And so that's the natural response. That's the natural response. I mean, you all heard me say before when, and Gwen will tell you, it was at this Alzheimer's fundraiser, and they wanted me to lead, and they were trying to tell me how to politically correctly say it, because they said, you know, they're gonna have all kinds of people who are actually there. You know, they're gonna have all of them. It's like, okay, I shook my head and said, yeah, you're right. I know we're gonna have all of them. Yeah, yeah. But you asked me, and you already know me. And once I walk up there, you can't do a thing about it. And so that meant then it was just me and the Lord and then everybody else. And the people applauded in Jesus' name. They applauded. And it was a whole lot of a whole lot of non-connectors. If you're going to honor him, let him handle how he's going to deal with people, because he'll take care of that part. Just don't you get in the way of what he wants to do. He just want to know, you're going to let your light shine, or are you really going to do that? So these times in which you find yourself shrinking away, so there is a changed life, and then there's the old life. The changed life, we're in Ephesians 4 and start at verse 20. And just listen, we're going to walk through. In verse 20, there are 4 components that we really want you to take a look at. Listen at verse 20. But you have not so learned Christ. Verse 21, if so that you have heard him and have been taught by him as the truth is in Jesus Christ. There are 4 things that are in those 2 passages. Because you have to know him personally. And to know him personally, these are the 4 things that come from that. 1, you have to learn him. Notice verse 20. You have not so learned Christ. So therefore, first criteria for change is to learn, like, who is he really? Who is he really? Because it said, you have not so learned Christ, and that will go back to the previous verses to say the thought process is wrong. In fact, listen at this, verse 17. I say, therefore, and testify in the Lord, that you no longer walk in the vanity of your mind, having your understanding darkened, alienated through the ignorance and on and on. You notice it's saying this is another way. That's the other way. And he says, but you haven't learned Christ like that. And it says the first thing is to say, I've got to know who he is. My life has been changed. This new life says, my whole perspective is different. It said, I'm not trying to mix the two of what it was, but understand you've had a lot more practice the other way. Unless you accepted the Lord as a child, then you have history of the old way. History of the old way. When people come to Christ in late teens or past their teenage years, they have an embedded way of living and thinking and have had years of practice in that. And so now all that stuff has to be unlearned because you got all this practice in that, and you were living like that, and then now all of a sudden you come face to face with, I need to start looking at something different. And the only way that happens, I've got to learn more about him. So that means it's an accelerated reading, and using this term lightly, you have to say, I've got to get in the Word to get some of this other stuff out of me, or my default is going to go back to what I've always done. It's going to go back to what I've always done. Just naturally, because I don't have to think about that. I have to think about doing something for Christ. When I've got these years of practice. So any of you been trying to break some habit and you struggle with it? Now, it's a question. Any of you it's a habit you're trying to break and you struggle with it?
Yes, cursing.
Cursing. So is she the only one that got a cursing problem? Okay. She the only one. Just raise your hand. If you got a cursing problem, raise your hand. Yeah, because we're gonna get this cleaned up. We can get this cleaned up now. A cursing problem. Okay, got a cursing problem. Cursing problem. All right, so remember I told you there's cursing and then there's cussing. Okay.
Yeah, I got a cussing.
Oh, it's different. It's different.
I have to be honest.
To Wanda, you know what it is? Cursing, people just use profane words. Mm-hmm. They're not good at it. They just use the words. It don't even sound right. They just saying the words. Yeah. Okay, you follow me? They just saying the words. Right.
Well, I'm a Cusser.
Right. Okay. Okay. There's a difference. The cussers have practice.
Years.
They've got a lot of times. They've got a lot of time. This isn't new for them. They don't have to think about the word. Cursors have to think about the words they use. Because they're trying to say the right one that they believe is going to push somebody back. That's why it don't ever fit. They're trying to say, well, use that, and they just say something, and they're trying to make it fit. Well, a cusser, it's not one word ever. It comes in it's bundles. It's bundles. Yeah. They don't operate as lone wolves. Cussers don't operate as lone wolves. They always have partners. There's more than one thing that comes out. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So it says, so the only way cussing goes, we remind you again, you need to take a piece of paper. Cursing or cussing. You need to take a piece of paper and write specifically out on the left side of the paper every one of those profane words. You got to write them out one by one on the left side of the paper. Each one. However many you have, you need to write them specifically down. Then on the right side of the paper, you've got to put a substitute for that word on the right side directly across from it. Now, if you know you're an MFer, you got to come up with something other than an MFer. You got to come up with something else.
Pastor.
Yes, sir.
I've got an inquiry on that.
Okay.
So that it doesn't sound rational to me
Which
to
part
do that, to replace a profane word with another word. So can you explain that to me? Because if my intention is to call you whatever, and I use a different word, that's still my intention. So explain why there's a difference.
It's because the other one honors hell. The change honors heaven. Out of the same mouth comes blessing and curses. So then this other one is from the pit. And it says, so I don't keep living in the pit. I need to come up with something that's going to edify.
Okay, but I'm not trying to edify you, right?
No, at that point, if you remember, we're talking about changed life.
Okay.
Changed life. Changed life would say, I'm tearing down with profanity. It's a tear down. It's never designed to build up. The edifying honors God. So therefore, I need a word to edify to honor God. So if I don't replace it, I'm honoring hell.
So is it a replacement? I'm seeing what you're saying. Is it a replacement of the word, or is it more a shift in the attitude?
Your attitude is not going to shift if you don't have another word. You got to have another way to go. And the other way to go, what I know I'm doing over here is I'm dishonoring God and pleasing hell.
Right.
That's what we need to say. The last time I cussed, no, I don't cuss, but the reality is, and nor do I curse. So in other words, the reality is that I'm celebrating hell with profanity.
Right.
It's dark. So if I want to keep celebrating dark, I just keep doing it. If I don't want to, then I need light. And the light is to edify. So therefore, I need to do what heaven says, build up. So I need to go over here with another set of words, because if I just say I'm going to stop doing this and don't have something over here, by default, I'm going right back to this.
Even if my intention, and I got it, so thank you for the clarification, but even if my intention, right, so you didn't rear-ended me in my brand new car.
Right.
And I get out and I'm running up on you. Right. And instead of using the profanity which I would normally use, I say something to you that is with still the intent, except I don't want to use do you see what I'm saying? I don't want to use the words, but my intent is not one of grace towards you. I'm still angry. I'm still.
And then what that says is that you don't have a changed life.
Okay, so that
You don't have to change life
Sounds
because the changed life says, I don't want to stay over here in the dark.
right.
I don't want to stay over here in the dark. I may be struggling. I might be struggling, but I don't want to stay over here. I mean, that's what that says. That I may be over here, but I don't want to stay over here. I just don't know my way out right now until somebody comes along and says, you don't have to really do that. You can do this instead. And so it's a challenge to be able to look at your stuff, at all your ugly words, and say, I got to put something better over here. And then sometime we may not even want to admit I've been using all of them. But you have to put them all down specifically. It doesn't matter whenever the last time it was you used it. That's a part of your vocabulary that you need to put it there and come back over here and put something else. And put something else there. So that whenever that trigger of your SOB comes up, then that means I got to have something other than the SOB. Because if I don't, it's just a matter of time. The more I talk, SOB is coming out. If I keep talking about the situation, the SOB is coming out.
Yeah.
Because even before profanity, there are other condemning words. If you think about it, there are other condemning words that lead up to the profanity. First of all, you start to marginalize, minimize whatever you're talking about or whoever the people are. Now you start throwing other names toward them. At first, you're talking about what they did, how they did it, why they did it. And the more you talk about that, then words start building up. It starts working itself into it. They get redressed, renamed. It's just a whole lot of stuff start to go on. Yes, sir.
Yes. It's been a long time ago, but I like everybody in here, I used to curse like a sailor. And it wasn't.
So you want to give us an example of how a sailor curse?
Just call anybody.
Okay, I'm just
everything.
checking.
But it's nothing to be proud of. But what I've learned as I was growing in, as I'm continuing to grow in Christ, that I just don't have the desire to curse or anything that's displeasing to God. Even though sometimes I might hurt myself around the house or something, I might say, and Karen heard, but it's just a slip.
It's a slip.
It's just
No, wait. What do you mean by a slip?
Because
It's one of them words.
one of those.
See,
but
just walked right into it, didn't
no.
he? He just walked right into it. You see what I'm talking about?
But it don't be nothing really bad.
I understand.
But nevertheless, it'd be, But anyway, as I was saying, I really don't have the desire to just be a continuous cursor like I once upon a time was.
No, and I promise you, it's not a slip. You want me to tell you why it's not a slip? Hold on. No. This is for everybody who said I did not mean it.
Well, if it wasn't a slip,
Now hold on, that's okay. It's okay. This is what everybody said that it does not mean it. So, Matthew chapter 15, let's then start at verse 18. Those things which proceed out of the mouth come forth from the heart, and they defile. And it goes on to say, so it's not a slip, it had a root. Okay? So therefore, whatever that is that comes out during those times, you need your left side of your paper too. And you need to put that down and come up with an alternative. Because if you don't, the next time you slip or hit or do something, he, she, or some friends are coming.
Yeah.
Now that's just the way.
But I think God is not nowhere near like.
But it's okay. I mean, it's okay. It's okay. Mm-hmm. But it's an ongoing process, and that's why it is when it says I gotta learn him. Mm-hmm. That's why the first part of knowing him is learn him. It's learn. I gotta say now, is that him? Because think about it. It's not just those words. It's the thoughts. It's the thoughts. Because the thoughts precede the action. The thought precede. You sow a thought, you reap an act. It's the thought is there first. You don't just all of a sudden just do it. You don't all of a sudden just do it. Okay, she's here. We're gonna come back. We work through this.
Okay, so you start making your paper, the other opposite words of that. So how do you start the process of uprooting it so that you don't no longer have that art?
No. You get your list, and then you replace. You're thinking too much about uprooting.
Well,
All right, no. You use this instead of that.
so your
Now,
thoughts are
what
just
you're
gonna
actually
shift?
doing is retraining your thoughts. You're realigning your thoughts. Because something pushed you to use the profanity. So now you got to go to what triggered, what pushed you to that point. So the same thing that did that, instead of that, I got to go over here. And what that means is you probably need to get some index cards and laminate them and carry them with you and start rehearsing a new set of words. You say, here's what I need to do. I need to start going over these words and get my little laminated cards and start reading them on a daily basis. Read them on a daily basis. Read them on a daily basis. And so if you all will remind me on Sunday, I'm going to bring a publication that would help everybody with just remind me. And I'll bring a booklet for you to be able to see that would put you on a 30-day plan to clean up your mouth. To clean up your mouth.
Well,
that's what we'll say.
okay. I'm not a cursor or a cusser, but I'm a digger. I can dig.
Same thing.
Yeah.
It's profane. It's profane. You want to explain to them what you mean by dig?
Somebody can say something to me, and I can say something that can be offending them, but they don't really catch it till it take a little minute for them to understand what I just did. Yeah. Somebody has to do something or say something.
What he's called is a sniper. He's a verbal sniper, is what he is. Yeah. 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 Yeah, that's what it is. He's a verbal sniper. Right. All right. So go on.
So, Pastor, all right. So we have a tradition here of redeeming songs, and some of the songs have lyrics that may or may not be suggestive, or, well, no, let me be straightforward. Some of the songs have suggestive lyrics, and we are replacing those lyrics with things that honor God. So my question is, I know what the original lyrics are, right? Cruising down the street in my 6'4", right? So how does that differ, or why is that different? Because when I hear the tune, the song comes to mind, the original song, right? So how do we square that? How?
Just because it comes to mind doesn't mean you go down that road. That's why we could take any of it and shift it quick. And we could even say this is how it normally would be, but now we give it to the Lord. So we're very clear because music is neutral. All music is neutral. The only thing that makes it what it is when there are words, then it becomes something different. You could take the blues and it's gospel. You could take the gospel and it's blues. You change one note, you change something else, because all music is neutral. And you could take honky tonk and then you could turn it to gospel. It's all what you choose to make that move. So when we start listening to some of the ballads and everything, and then they start causing you to relive things, then it can also cause you to go down another road. You could take the beauty of the music and give it to the Lord.
Yeah. So how do we get past that, right? Because like I said, when the ballad starts playing, when the whatever it's called, you hear the introduction, and it starts playing, the song comes to mind. Now, mind you, we don't sing them every day or every Sunday to get it in, like, like for us, some of us, we know some of the words, some of the songs that we've redeemed. So we know the words to the song. But the original words are still there, right? So the original words are still there. So as I'm listening, as we're singing it, the original
It starts
words
to come to mind.
come to mind. Even though we change it, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm going to change it from this to that.
Yeah.
But the original comes to mind. So what I'm asking is, how do we, what techniques can we use to change that or to mitigate that?
You're conscious of your why.
Okay.
You're conscious of your why. This is as unto the Lord. The same way, like this past Sunday, Jesus is the best thing was glad as night. It was, you're the best thing. I mean, literally, it was, you're the best thing that ever happened to me. That was glad as night. Okay. And so, but the music, right.
But Pastor, there's a song.
Rolling. No, keep going.
There's a song called "The Closer I Get to You" that was sung at my wedding. I have forgotten the original words. I just know the spiritual words. So when I hear that, that's what comes to mind. I don't even remember the other words. I think that's what happens back what we were saying earlier about, did you say retrain or whatever it was? But that, I don't even remember the other lyrics. And some of the songs that we sing here, they come up and I hear what we sing here. Yeah, so that's what has happened for me.
Yeah, and we'll even take some that are called gospel and reword because they're off. Because they're like, no, we need to make it right. So that's it. Yes, ma'am.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's a song Anita Wilson sings, "Because You Love Me," and I had it played at my 50th, and I said, where does that song come from? And I just had to Google it. It was "The Best of My Love." You hear something that you turn from the secular and you make it about Jesus and God. You forget that, like when you did that on Sunday, I'm like, dang, I did that all the time, looking up to God, singing it to him. You just really forget that that's what that was. And a secular song. And I do want to ask you a question about the curse word to the regular word. So if the regular word, I was sitting here thinking, and would I even say that in front of my dad? I said, well, wait a minute. Like, I don't give a flying floozy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I say, that's my word that I say. I don't give a flying floozy. And I said, well, I said that in front of my daddy because the indication means. And so when I understand what Mr. Michael was saying on that note, but on the other hand, my students now will change their words, their cuss words when they slip and say other words, But the flying floozy, what you think of that?
If you take what the word floozy means, okay, well, it does have a meaning. And so as a result, then now you got to associate what that means. Okay. And because then now that's a condemning description of someone. Right. Okay. Say, yeah, it's a condemning description of somebody. It devalues it everything about it. So one, you got to learn more. If this Changed Life says you got to learn more. The second thing, now we're back in Ephesians 4, verse 21. If so be that you have heard him, so you got to learn more than you got to hear him. So my hearing says I'm really paying attention because I don't want to take it for granted. So this change is I learn more, I hear. Then the third thing, I've been taught. This is verse 21. Taught in Christ. If you have heard him and have been taught by him. And to be taught says, I am learning something different than what I already knew. To be taught says, it goes beyond what I already knew. So therefore, if I'm not coming into the situation with the anticipation of gaining something beyond what I had, then the changed life is not there. I can't say, oh, I heard that before. Oh, well, I know what he's about to say. Well, immediately at that time, I'm being dismissive because you really don't know. And you've got to be open to the fact of how it is being communicated, because I'm supposed to be learning, hearing, and prepared to be taught. Every time you're taught, it says, I'm better. Whenever you're taught, you're better. You're better. Then the other part, the last part of verse 21, and as the truth is in Jesus, you're knowing, you know it. You're learning, you're hearing it, you're taught it, and now you have embraced it so much that you're not about to let it go. Because this changed life says, I've got this, and this is what I'm implementing now. I'm implementing what I've learned. So every time I come together among the saints, is that the anticipation is that I'm going to learn something different. When I'm spending time in the Word, then it may be something else. Even on Sunday as well, I'm going to show you all a publication about how to be able to gain more benefit out of study, how you can gain more in that regard. So learn, hear, taught, you know it for sure. So by the time it says, oh, I got this, you'll never be able to talk me out of this, is what that means. I know for sure. Yes, sir.
Yes, that Ephesians passage is truth in every aspect, because it makes me examine myself when I'm come up against scenarios or circumstances, scenarios, and people. My siblings, in history, we don't really talk to each other very well, but by me being conscious of what pleases God and what doesn't please God, the Ephesians passage, the entire book of Ephesians reminds me to examine myself and how I approach and respond to my siblings and others, more differently, because other than that, my life wouldn't be a big change if people see me the same way. And I'm very conscious of that because it's not a heart change. And for me, if my heart is really changed, then my circumstances concerning people and dilemmas has to be a different situation.
So we can have in our mind we want to do differently, and we say I want to do better. I really want to do better. Now, that's like a New Year's resolution. This time around, I'm going to do it better. Well, that doesn't have any legs to it. That doesn't have any weight to it. By saying, I'm not doing that, I'm not going to let them get to me again. You've said things like that. I'm not going to let them get to me this next time. I'm going to be prepared for them, and then it happens, and they get you again. And it still is because you didn't do the reset, reload. And the evidence of it, just like you talked about with your siblings, the issue isn't whether they change. Nothing about what they do. In fact, they could get worse. The real question is there evidence to see that it's not affecting you the way that it has, in spite of their unwillingness, in spite of their lack of cooperation? Can you see, or can somebody see that it doesn't have the effect, it does not bother, and your response is more of a heart of compassion? So the evidence of the shift of getting this is that your compassion for them should go to another level, and your frustration should be disappearing, but your compassion should be going up. Right. See, the difficult people that you having a tough time with, your compassion should be going up. That's the evidence of the change. Your compassion goes up and your frustration goes down. Not the same thing. Here we are again. I'm just really tired of them. They're bringing this stuff to me all the time. Frustration up. Versus frustration should go down as my compassion goes up. See, now, if my compassion goes up, I can't get frustrated because my compassion is toward their frailty, is toward that. But I've got to lean on him to be able to do that. Or my eyes are going to have me looking at them. This is a problem. This is a very real problem, and I'm about sick of it. I'm about had enough of this, and I'm tired of fooling with them. And in a minute, I'm going to tell them where to go and how to get there fast. because that's going to be the next thing. So that's the next thing. Unless my compassion goes up, I'm going to go on assault. I'm going on assault. Because if my frustration goes, then anger starts to kick. Then now it's a totally different situation. Totally different situation. You just got to learn how to love the hell out of people.
That's evidence of change.
Well, yeah, you got to learn how to love the hell out of them so the hell don't be coming out of you.
That's a struggle.
Well, I guess it is. You know, it's always a struggle in the natural. Only in the natural. Only in the natural. Romans 5 says the love of God is shed abroad in our heart. You gotta get it to the point to where you let God love them through you. And the only way that happens, you gotta humble yourself and get out of the way, because your thoughts going to be, I'm about tired of this. I keep going through this same thing, and I don't see anything any different. You know, they must think I'm something to play with. I mean, all these thoughts will start coming in your head. They must think I'm something soft. They can walk all over me. Well, I'm about tired of being walked all over. Now these thoughts start getting in your head, and now you're not friendly. You're not kind. You're not godly. You're not talking about praise the Lord anyhow. You're talking about how you're going to get them off you. You're talking about how you're going to get them out of your way. You're tired of them talking to you like that. I'm grown. You get tired of it. Or you'll be a sniper like the one. Then you won't do it to their face, but you'll snipe. Snipers hide. You know that what he's trying to say is, you know, snipers hide. They don't come out and say, I be a sniper. They don't do that.
No, I dig to their face. So I want to get that clear.
Yeah,
I don't hide.
He does it, but it's veiled. When it's veiled, it's hidden. It's still hidden. That's exactly right. So it's veiled. It's veiled. It's veiled. I got it. So how many times have you had to go get him out of jail? Because if that's what you're doing, it'd be many a time lawsuits galore would be coming. Because some folks just waiting for you to do it. They'll take a punch to sue you. So, verse 22. Okay, tell me the 4 things that you have, and then we're going to get to this other on verse 20. Verse 22. Okay. Verse 22, now listen to this. That you put off concerning your old lifestyle, which is corrupt. Notice what we talked about? According to the deceitful way we live. In other words, it says our natural way is not good. So it requires us pulling off the old person. Taking the dirty clothes off. Now, how many of you keep on dirty clothes and go to bed and just go to bed? You say it's time for me to go to sleep. And so you got these dirty, sweaty, smelling stuff, and then you go to bed. Now, how many of you actually do that? How many of you are in this humidity of going out there and saying, I'm just going to lay down and cover up? Okay. And because you can't see yourself doing it. And what God is saying is, here's what I need for you to do. Take it off. What that mass saying? Take it off. Take it off. It's like, take it off and don't use it anymore. And don't use it anymore. He says, if you don't take this off, listen to what this says, that you take off the old lifestyle, not some of it, all of it, which says, I've got to start down a path to do something different from that piece that always got to me. That piece that always got to me, it's got to be something different. It has to be something different. Because if not, just a matter of time, you'll end up going back to what you've always done. There's no way for you not to. There's no way for any of us not to. Because it's normal. It's familiar. So then, verse 23. And to be renewed in the spirit of your mind. You notice it's all about this thought process. Be renewed in the spirit of your mind. Remember, if God's not giving us this spirit of fear, he's not giving us all this stuff, then that means we got to see, what is he saying to us? Is my response consistent with him? If it's not, then I need to start doing something different. And that's where the work comes in. The easiest thing is to keep doing what you've been doing. Because you don't have to think. You're on automatic pilot. You're on automatic pilot. you leave going somewhere and your route has to change, you don't really like that. You're trying to say, you got to come up with, you got to fix your mind to get accustomed to going another way, and your mind is struggling because this is just the way you go, and you know how long it takes, and you know what to expect. Make there be a change, make it turn from 2 lanes to 1 lane, and everything changes. Let them have you getting off on this exit and reroute and detour you going around here, and you had in your mind how you were going to go, and now all of a sudden this happened. You're not really happy. You go into the store, and they had 8 checkers, 8 people lined up somewhere, and then when you start getting closer, 5 of them took a break. Everything is a problem. Because you thought you were about to get out there in a short length of time. So then, versus, I'm here. I'm here. Or otherwise, you're going to start, where's the manager? You need to get some more cashiers. You start going through all of that. You see all these people lined up out here. What's wrong with you all? Why we got to come in here? Then you're going through all of that. Right. And they're just going on, get to know some of the people. Just stand there, because most of them are going to be complaining. Most of them already are. And are you going to join into that? Now just think about it. Everybody, yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. They only do that in this neighborhood. They don't do that over there in that neighborhood. See there? But I've been listening to you all. I just listen to what people have to say. I bet you if I was out there in West County, I wouldn't have to do all of this. See, I already know it. But here's the deal. They might on the day that you go. Now what? Now what are you going to do? You get all the way out there and find out you got the same treatment. Now what you going to do? See, now what you going to do? Now you're going to say, I should have stayed where I was. That's going to be the next thing.
Pastor, I've had an opportunity to defuse those kind of conversations by just simply saying, today's workforce, they're shorthanded. People call off at the last minute. They're doing the best they can do.
So let me take you a step further than that. There are so many wonderful things you can say about the Lord in that situation. His provision. His provision, the fact that you're in the line with the ability to secure the goods that you chose. His provision. He is our source, and he's allowed this store to be open for you to pick and choose what you're able to do and for you to be able to pay for it. That's a totally different response than all the others. You thanking him for it. And then it's some people that I would not have got the chance to see up close like this were it not for this delay. We would not be having a chance to talk about these things if you had rushed in and I had rushed in. I may not have ever seen your face. You may not have ever seen mine.
Ooh, that's good.
I guess you're saying, well, I ain't trying to say all that. I'm trying to get out of here. Or you could see it as an opportunity to in other words, what are you thinking? What are you thinking? It's got to go back to what are you thinking? Did you also know that while you were in there in this so-called delay, might have been keeping you from something that could have potentially happened had you gotten out at the time that you did? Because if your steps are ordered, knowing that your steps are ordered, then it said, he knew I was coming here. It was going to be like this. So then if I trust him, my being in here, how many minutes is it? 2 minutes is a long time when you're watching the clock. But it's hardly anything if you just roll on. You just never...
Yeah. That's why a Christian's thought life is just critical to their everyday walk.
When he tells us in Romans 12, do not be conformed to this world, because it sounds just like everybody's of this world. Because the saints complain at the same level that the ain'ts do. It's all the same. It's just one sound. They're singing the same song. One choir. It's called the Royal sainthood of the complainers. I mean, it's the royal choir of the complainer, and they're all there. Unbelievers, the Muslim, Church of Latter-day Saints, Wicca, they all complain. Everybody, all of them in there playing. I mean, so you got this whole crew of folk who probably wouldn't say anything to each other. You got the KKK, you got the Klan, you got everybody in there complaining. They're all in there the same thing. There's agreement to complain. Probably wouldn't even be speaking to each other. But right there at that stage, and it's like, where's the light? Where is the light? And then think about the person who's up there waiting and hearing all of this. And now you finally get up. It's about time, you finally get up there. You finally get up there. Now you're going to have a conversation with them. How come you all don't have anybody else? Why come you not? Now you're going through all of that instead of being a blessing. It's your attitude. It's our attitude. But that means, so therefore, when you're impatient, then you got to ask, what does impatient do with your thoughts? And what are you doing? You got to go back to say, when I get impatient, my thoughts become this. You need to write out on your left side of that paper, what are my thoughts in situations where I don't have control? What am I normally doing? I need to put something over here. I got to go another route. I've got to go another route. This is the work, because you're seriously reprogramming. You really that's what transformation is. It's reprogramming. In the natural realm, it says reprogram your thinking.
Monitoring your thoughts.
No, not monitoring. It's well past monitoring.
Well,
now it's to replace so that my next response is going to be, instead of what I always was, I'm going here. I'm going here instead of there, because there is always, it's still there. It's not gone anywhere. It's there. But you're just not acting it out. You're over here. You had the alternative.
Right. We can't control what comes in our thoughts, but we can control how long they stay in there.
No. That's almost right. That sounds right. That sounds right. A thought is a thought is a thought. You just got to decide which one are you going to focus on. What we cannot get away from is our dominant thought. Our dominant thought is what we act on. The one that we're locked in on the most is the one we act on. Because you could have 5 or 6 different thoughts, and they just all common, but one of them you said, that's the one I want. You said, that's the one I want. You could have said, I'm going to walk away, I'm going to pray for them, I'm going to do that. No, I'm going to tell them. And the other alternatives were already there, but you chose, and I'm not lacking in on that one. The one I want to dive in on right now, I need to tell them.
That's when you can. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Now, because that, DeJuan, you all got to watch. Hands up. You all got to stay ready. No, but Roland, you were about to say, no, that's on DeJuan. That's not on you. He's right there looking straight ahead.
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to say. That's when we have when we have to control, because the thoughts are coming. Like you say, you can choose which one you want to hold on to, but we have the ability to cast it down, as scriptures say.
The casting down has everything to do with what instead. Okay. What instead? Yeah, what instead? What do you do instead? You could throw away all your sweets out of your house. Does that take away your sweet tooth?
Nope.
Uh-huh. So, now you follow the process. You done cast them all down. You've cast them all down. But that has not changed that appetite.
That's serious warfare.
I understand, but it is not. It is because at an opportunity.
Okay, so you mentioned that. So we have a lot of thoughts coming in, and then we get to choose which thought we choose to focus on.
Right.
But we don't have. Do we have control over the thoughts that come in?
Literally, if you look at what the studies would show, you have thousands of thoughts that go through your mind every day. Throughout the day, if you ever stop to try to track them, you got so many different things running through your head all at the same time. But you choose what you focus on.
So we don't have control over the thoughts that come in. We just have control over what we focus on.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. That's why it really is talking about the dominant thought. What are you focusing on the most? Something is going to get your attention. What are you going to fixate on? What are you going to lock it in on? Because if that's the same way, if I'm talking about not wanting to forgive somebody for something and I've locked in on this, I am not going to forgive because I'm thinking about what they did. At that stage, that's controlling what I'm thinking, and what gets associated with that is everything that goes along with my hurt, my pain, my debt, and it leads to a whole bundle of stuff. Because I didn't let go of, I'm not going to forgive. Everything associated with now is lumped in. My behavior is going to be changed, going to be impacted by the fact that I'm unwilling to do that. It just goes along with it. So then I got to decide, do I really like how this is making me feel? I got to make that decision. If I don't, then I need to go back to what got me there. It's my unwillingness to deal with the issue of forgiveness. If I deal with that, this bundle, the bundle goes with it. Because with it, most of these thoughts are not isolated. They have relatives. Other things go along with it. And that's why you have to decide. You could dwell on what I didn't do right. You could dwell on your failure. You could dwell on, I should have done this better. Now you're locked in on what woulda, coulda, shoulda. And now when I get locked in on that one thing doesn't stop. Now I start thinking about, well, yeah, I remember something else that I didn't do. I wish if I had done that one too back there 8 years ago, then I wouldn't be in the situation that I'm in now. I knew I should have listened to what they told me then. And so now you back there somewhere. And so now when it's time to do something different, you're thinking about, well, I messed up 9 times before. This 10th one, I probably don't have a chance. And everybody's saying, go for it, go. Well, and then in your mind, you saying, you know you're right. But then in your mind, you saying, it ain't ever turned out right. So you're not as motivated. You're so locked in. It's because of the thought, because you didn't take it to the next level. You kept it in the dark versus I'm more than a conqueror. But if I'm thinking about my failures, then I can't relate to being more than a conqueror because I'm locked in on my failure. Don't look like you, because the enemy going to say, you don't look like you much of a conqueror. Let me tell you what you did this last time. You ain't much of a conqueror. And you're like, yeah, I guess you're right. Versus God says this. So I'm going to identify with that. Now my mind starts to go to what he says versus I'm thinking about what's normal. Yeah, and it probably won't turn out right. Nobody's going to believe me anyway. Probably not good enough because nobody's ever told me that I am good enough. And so now you're going through all this in your head. And nobody said anything, but in your mind, everybody else told me I didn't get that. And this didn't turn out right. That one didn't turn out right either. So it probably won't turn out right. So I'm not going to even try. That's what it means. But it's replacing. Yes, ma'am.
I'm just sitting here. I think I finally got it. So I'm listening, and my heart, I'm wondering, why am I like this? When you have thoughts that you don't want to have, or you make a judgment in your mind about people, and then, at least for me, I'm like, why? I don't want to do that. So I'm praying, create me a clean heart. So I'm trying to get my heart changed. But what I'm hearing you teach us tonight is the thoughts are going to come, but it's what we focus and lock in on. So I don't have to choose to stay on that thought like, man, I just, cut her down in my heart and blah, blah, blah. I don't have to do that. I can focus on, the life words or the good things, what's honorable and praiseworthy and holy. Did I get it?
Mm-hmm.
So my heart I don't have to feel bad that sometimes the thoughts come in. I just
because
cast
they're
them
going to
out.
come back. What would your enemy do? Keep trying to break you down.
Right.
In the natural, your enemy is going to try to compromise you, keep trying to break you down. If it worked before, I'm going to come back and try it again. That's just like having a bad man, a woman with a bad man. Man ain't no good, ain't worth nothing, ain't never been nothing. But the fact of it is, he knows if I press you, You're eventually going to cave in, although you keep saying no, 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 no. But in his mind, if I pressure you, pressure you, pressure you, you'll finally break. Although you don't want to, but you'll probably break. So think about a jacked up, no good bro. And that's how the enemy goes. He's no good. He's focusing on himself, and his goal is to wear you down so you'll cave in. Just so you'll cave in. But he's going to tell you all the stuff you think you need to hear so you'll cave in. That ultimately is what it is. And so you can look for this quote. You can go back and find this quote. Is that you don't have control over birds flying over your head, but they don't have to let them build a nest. Yep. Yes, sir.
Pastor, just digging into that a little bit more. So with the renewing of our minds as we are replacing the words and the thoughts with things that are God-honoring, do we not see kind of a minimization of the amount of negative thoughts that come or would creep in as we are growing in the Word and kind of, let's use renewing the mind. So as our minds are being renewed, don't we see kind of a minimization of the negative or those things that are against God's Word coming into our minds?
Well, that's never going to stop.
Not stopping, but that it's shrinking because I think about my thoughts and it's not as it used to be, right?
Well, that would have something to do with what's the replacement value that's there instead. Because then now, when it goes back to Roland alluded to, when it says cast down every high thing that exalt, that means something's got to go back where it was. If you pull something down, something's got to go up there. That if you don't put something up there, it's almost like you sealing something, where you like you're sealing something in order that something else can't get there. We have the tendency to throw stuff away and don't seal it so something can't come back. You know, it was just like we're talking to a young man earlier. He said, "I went away to drug rehab from October to March, was totally clean. Then he said, I had a setback. And he said, now I've been clean for 25 days. Now think about it. He went from October to March in a facility and was totally clean. But what that said is the mind had not shifted. So going through the motions of all of that, so he was clean of the substance, but the mind was still strung out. So therefore, when the opportunity became available, much like we talked about the sweets, when the opportunity became available, he gravitated towards it, although months of nothing. And so now he's 25 days clean. So part of what I'm supposed to be doing is to make him accountable in a very different way about the discipline of the mind. This very thing we're talking about now, the discipline of the mind, how his thoughts doesn't take him down this destructive way, but he has to choose. But we'll show him a way to do it, but he has to make a decision because the temptation is never going anywhere. That's never going. If you've been victimized before, then the enemy said, well, why not? Why don't I? But that doesn't mean you have to stay a victim. You can be victimized, but you don't have to be a victim. And there's a difference. I tripped again. However, am I going to stay here and cry because I did, or am I going to get up and go? And get up and go. Got to get up and go. I messed up. Let me say it quickly and let me get back. But I got to put something there so I don't end up back down here in the same spot. Or it's just a matter of time before I will. I mean, if you're not a good driver and you're always running into stuff, it don't matter what kind of car you get, you're still going to run into stuff. Yeah, because that's just how you drive. You're a reckless driver. I mean, that's just the way that it is. The vehicle is not the real issue. It's you. And it's not how the other people out there driving. You're just running into stuff all the time. Right. So you've got to be committed. Even the thoughts about, and this is the last thing, even the thoughts about how you see yourself. You got to be honest enough to say, this is really how I see me. Now, then ask yourself, is this how God sees me? So you got to put, this is how I see me, Now let me put this over here and see what does God say. And then you got to decide which one am I going to hold on to. Which one am I going to hold on to? Because you got to make a decision which one you're going to hold on to. You know, if somebody is always going to have something to say. Somebody can always have something to say. You got to decide, what are you going to do when they say it, be it true or not? Because sometimes what they're saying is true, and you don't want to accept it. But then what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Go give them the business because they told the truth? You just didn't want them to say it. And if they told the truth to somebody else about you, then you still get upset because it was true. They just told somebody. And now you mad at them for telling, and who else also knows, and you can't change any of it. You can't change any of it. That's why we say, if somebody's telling something about you, tell them I got some more stuff to tell that they didn't tell you. Let me give you some more stuff that they didn't tell you. I'll tell you some other thing. Let me tell you about this. Did they tell you this? Well, let me tell you about this. And after a while, I said, now what else do you want to know? You were about to say something?
Yeah, Pastor, how do you put your sensitivity in a bottle where I have a tendency to want to respond to when I get sensitive about something, I want to respond. I did it tonight with these mics. And I did it. And so, no, not the sniper. That was right in front of everybody. So, okay. And I'm gonna fix that too. I used the wrong word, dig. I can be condescending.
It's the same. It's the same.
I know but it's not. I'm not a hider, no coward or nothing like that. So yeah, I'll come right at it. But with the mic, I got a little sensitive about the mic tonight. I told myself that was the end of sensitivity last week, and I got triggered again.
But what did you do instead? You just said it in your head.
I shouldn't have said anything tonight. I should just
but if you said last week was the last time, what did you do to shift how you were looking at it? If you did not put something there, it was just going to be just a matter of time.
I shared with some people what I was going to do.
That doesn't matter. That doesn't mean that. That's just talk.
So what I was going to do, it's really not that serious. That was my thing. It's really not even worth dealing with.
But actually, it is, because it keeps triggering you.
Yeah.
Your unwillingness to admit that it does is why it keeps coming up. Okay, hold on. Now, if it bothers you, I got to be honest enough to say that bothers me. And now I need to ask myself, why? Like, why does it bother me? And now when you get to that part, that's when you can make the shift.
Yeah.
That's when you can
I know
make
why
the
it
shift.
bothers me. I do know.
Okay.
Because he's sensitive.
That's a good point. And I like the truth to be known, that it's not always I'm negligent. Just now, I only had one mic. And she had the mic in her hand, and she was next. I couldn't give it to nobody else. I could have took it from her and gave it to the other person. So I want everybody to know that's what was going on.
But here was a problem. Here was a problem with that. Roland was up here. You were back there looking straight ahead. Her hand was up. Hold on. Her hand was up. You were in the back looking straight ahead, and you didn't see her.
That didn't trigger me. I wasn't guilty.
Now you missed it. Now you missed the point of when I said to Roland, "Don't go back." That's on DeJuan.
And that was
because
true.
Her hand was up.
Right, I missed that one.
That's exactly.
That didn't
that's
trigger
all
nothing.
that it was.
That wasn't it. Somebody else.
But wait, now listen. But for real, on that kind of stuff, I really believe that one lump of clay is made to do this and the other lump is made to do this. So when this one malfunctions, sometimes we wait on a response, and will we get the response that God is keep trying to break us from when that happened? So this time he was referring to Jerica had the mic, and Miss Tawanda needed a mic, but he didn't have one to give. And Mr. Rowland looked at Mr. Tawanda. Yeah, I can't give it to him. I want to have this. Right.
Yeah, that is correct. that is correct. Yeah. Listen, and you know, he thought, he thought he had picked out an ally, and she told the truth. That's what happened. That's exactly what happened. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. I am so glad you were here. I'm so glad you were here, because that's exactly what happened.
We have an online question.
Okay.
Moving forward.
Okay.
The question is, how do you handle someone that just naturally irritates you? I think we might have answered this. And they go on. They say, like, as soon as you see them, there's an automatic response of disgust and perceivable annoyance.
Okay.
How do you handle someone who just naturally irritates you?
Well, that's great. That's a great comprehensive question. Well, first of all, it's operating on a false premise. The false premise is natural agitation. So it starts out with a false premise. So once you start off with a false premise, then you end up with a false outcome. And so therefore, it's got to go back to say, it's something about me that this person is touching in me. Because what's coming out of me is my response, and they did not put that response in me. They didn't put it in me. It came out of me because they touched something and it just came up, but it was already in me. And it could be somebody else other than that person that brings out that same thing, and I've never probably associated with my stuff because I kept thinking of that person. But my behavior probably like that has come out in some other way. So I've got to go back to ask, why is it what that person is doing is bothering me? Not the person, but why is what they're doing bothering me? Because it's coming out of me. Back to Matthew 15, it's coming out of me. It's coming out of me. And it's a challenge until I deal with me on the inside. I got to deal with me. I got to always ask the question, why does this bother me? And I can't say, they just make me sick. They just make me mad. They're always doing something. They always got something to say. Every time you look around, they're saying something. They're all up in somebody's face all the time. Okay, and why does that bother you? Everything you said could be true. But then I got to ask, with all of that, why does it bother me? When it all boils down. Yes, ma'am.
I think me, personally, it would probably have to do with the chastisement of in front of other people or the adult thing. And one of the things that happened and it made me mindful was one time the two young ladies were over here and they were doing something and you told them, hey, we're up here. And if you're doing this, you can't get what I'm talking about up here. I said, oh, man, what if that would have happened? How would I have felt? But it made me aware of what you were saying because it is true. And so it makes me now leave my phone off, in all of my years of being in church, I've never done that. I'm going to text somebody, I'm going to do this, X, Y, and Z, but it made me conscious of, I don't want that to happen to me. But you were correct in what you were saying because even in all of my attention now being, I don't miss anything. I don't have to say, what did he say? Or, I don't have to do that. But I think, and I don't like being chastised.
Public lynching.
So it made me aware,
Because what it does, it always goes beyond those individuals because it's for all of us. And it should say, is it true? And I know what'll happen. Sometimes folk will say, did he have to say that? Did he have to do that? I know those thoughts are running through people's head all of the time. He shouldn't be doing that. And that's because they're not accustomed to accountability in the church. And folk can just do and say whatever. And it's finally like, whoa, wait a minute. Hold up. And the judge would get the bailiff to take you out. There was Jericho, some of some of your young people who are in the training program for the summer were taken to a live court a few days ago. And the bailiff said, you cannot use your phones in here. You cannot end up doing that. And the judge noticed somebody doing it. He said, bailiff, go and give her a last warning or she's going to be locked up. And she had to find out the hard way. You don't sit up here and play with your phone, because once he said that, it's like, do not. He said, what is that sound back there? And they said from the beginning, you cannot use this, you cannot use that. And they did it, and they had to find out alive and well. But then we get the chance to not, when it's to say, literally, it no longer is me and the person. It's about, are we trying to hear from what the Lord has to say? And are we distracting other people by virtue of it? So then it becomes necessary to say, hold up, we can't do that. Hold up, we can't do that. Because it's interfering and it prevents what God's trying to do. Once it's done, it's done. It never is belabored. It's like, okay, it's done, it's done. And then when people get thrown out, well, you know what? Yeah, he always saying something. You know, I don't know why. You know, he just talk to us like we children, like we some children or something. I already know it. Look at it. I'm grown. I don't want nobody be talking to me like that. I already know them thoughts be running through folks' heads. I already know it. I already know it. I already know it. Don't it rolling it, don't it, Erica? I already know it just be running through folks' head. I know it just be running through folks' head. I mean, I know. Yeah, I mean, but I know it just be running through folks' head, and I understand. But it's to say, that's what accountability and discipline is. We do it. We do it at the symphony. At the symphony, we get quiet. We do it at plays. We get quiet, and they don't even have to tell. When the light go down and there's a play, everybody. Somehow in the house, we can do whatever, and it just say, not in this house. Not in this house. That's the deal. Okay. Anything else before we leave?
Yeah. Just have one thing. And the truth is a powerful thing, and it, like the Bible said, it does make you free. I haven't always been here where I'm at regarding the truth, but I have learned to embrace the truth, whether I like it or not. You just have to, especially if you call yourself a follower of Christ. You know, and my question, and I have a question for you, Pastor Petty. Does the truth come across as being negative to people? And if it's truth, and they know it's the truth, but they may say, that's negative, that's negative, that's negative. But it's the truth, the absolute truth.
Yeah. So, but it doesn't, because it's received as negative, because the truth is discipline.
Okay. And
so what it does, it calls you to a point to make a decision. Do I correct something, or do I continue what I'm doing? I mean, it brings us to that point all of the time. And so many times we don't want to be told we're wrong. Really, we don't want to be told we're wrong. We don't want to be told we're wrong. That's why sometimes people are like, oh, please don't tell me. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. Because now I'm faced with the fact I may have to change.
Oh, okay.
I may, no, I mean, that really is it. I may have to change. It's like, oh, that's not the best way to do it. Don't be telling me what to do. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, you go on. You just go right on. Take your little happy self on. And that would be it. So if you don't want me to tell you the truth, just don't ask me. Then be all right. But don't ask me. Now, if you ask me, I'm going to tell you the truth.
Okay.
Now, if you want me to just tell you something, I am really not the person to talk to. And that goes. I told you, I called the police on my dad. They having to go lock him up because he was being threatening to my mother. I said, well, so I called Florissant and police. I said, there's a man in here who's married to my mother that you all need to come and get. And 3 cars came to pick him up. And all he was doing was raising his voice. It's like, no, you got to go, bro. Okay. Jerica.
Okay, so when you're talking about telling people like when they're wrong, you also have talked about like relationship before correction too.
Right.
So when somebody is in the wrong or something like that, are you waiting for them to invite you in to tell them that they're wrong, or because people do wrong stuff all the time? So is it more so like the relationship before the correcting aspect? Does that make sense?
Okay, so if you're in a relationship with someone, like for instance, I don't have any problem telling your dad when he's all over the place. I'll flat out tell him, and I'm not asking for permission. I'll just flat out tell him the relationship is of enough to where I don't need his permission to tell him when he jacked up. I'm just gonna flat out say it, and that's that. That's how it'll be. Now, if I'm in a work situation with somebody and the work relationship is of such to where I'm responsible for some of the activities that they're doing or vice versa, and it's compromising what we're doing, then something needs to be said. So the relational is that work environment because it's endangering the outcome of some things. Now, in general, with some people out there where you don't have any point of entry, then that's totally different. But if you have any point of entry and it's compromising the well-being of someone, then you really ought to be able to say something. And if you have the best interest of somebody you're in a relationship with, you should not hesitate. That's not something to start saying, I'm going to pray to God about it. It's already clear. You need to say it. You just flat need to say it. Listen, Gwen doesn't ask me, can she talk to me when she wants to say something to me? She don't ask me, can I talk to me? She's going to say whatever. She don't say, can I talk to you about something I'm concerned about? She does not. I know. She does not do that. No, you heard what she just said, didn't you? She didn't set an appointment to say, can I talk to you tomorrow at 3:45 a.m. about this, that, and that? No. Yeah. No. Yes, sir.
I was reading Leviticus 12:2. I normally don't read that Leviticus at all, but it was talking about the house of God and how the order in the house of God was amongst, you don't let whores, thieves, and it kept using the word "usy." I don't quite understand what but it used in the context of you don't lend a brother usy, but it's okay to lend a stranger usy. And I've never seen that word, and I was just wondering.
Okay. Well, that's not actually in Leviticus 12:2. Are you talking about usury? USURY? Is that what you're talking about?
I guess that's the
usury is really talking about loaning. It's an exchange in that regard. Usury. So in most cases, if you give to somebody, you just give it because sometimes if you think you're loaning something to somebody, you're gonna have some issues.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I mean you're gonna have some issues, and that's why unless it's somebody who you know you have that kind of interaction with, because you could be sorely compromised, and somebody might get hurt. Yeah, that is it. Yeah, well, I stopped counting. I don't even count. Like, oh no, I don't count. I was like, yes, ma'am. You're about to say, okay.
Me or Lakita?
I'm okay.
She changed her mind.
I was going to respond to what some Jerica said. So there's a sister on my job who we have a work relationship, but we also talk to each other because we're Christians and believers. And she's an older lady too. She's like 70 something. But the other day she said something and I was like, I can't not say anything because so we were at work on Tuesday and we were loud and somebody complained because we were loud. And so the manager came up and was like, y'all need to calm down. And so she was like, well, shoot, I ain't going nowhere till the Lord tell me to. The Lord told me he gave me this job and I'm be here until he leave. And I said, and she said this around all, I said, Miss, whatever her name is, we have to follow authority. you can't be, because she comes around, she talks to people about the Lord all the time. She's very bold in it. I wish I was as bold as she was. But when she said that, I felt like, no, so do we have a responsibility to tell fellow Christians when they're wrong, especially when they say it publicly?
You should have said something to her because you have a relationship. And because if I was in that conversation, it would have been, I trust the Lord too, but these people can still fire you.
Exactly.
I said, let's be very clear.
And that'll be the time the Lord said you gotta go.
That won't change the fact of my trust in the Lord. I can still trust the Lord and get fired.
Yes.
So let's be clear. So let's just be clear. They can still walk you out the door, and you can still keep on trusting the Lord.
Exactly.
Okay. In the name of Jesus, go ahead on. I mean, that won't change your faith. But if you don't do what they do, and if you're insubordinate, it said that you are insubordinate, and God gets no glory out of your being insubordinate. So don't be bragging on him, and then you being insubordinate, talking about humble yourself under the mighty hand of God, and you won't humble yourself under the authority he placed you under. Sister. Yeah. I'm sorry. Like, no, don't come here like that. That's why I say one of the guys, one of my golfing buddies, grand deacon, I said, don't be telling these people about how much of a deacon you are, and then you cussing more than 5 people at the same time. You cussing 5 of them at the same time, and you talking about how much of a deacon you are, and you can't get it. I said, man, don't be sitting around here. And like, man, come on now. You don't be like, you're around here with all this stuff. I said, man, you need to stop. You need to just stop. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
There's a coworker on my job, and she tends to dress a little inappropriate.
According to?
Me.
You just answered your question. So that question just ended right there, didn't it? Not according to company policy?
Okay, company policy.
Is it according to company policy?
Yes.
Okay.
It's according to company policy.
So has the person that she answers to said something?
Nope.
Then
nobody has said anything.
Okay. So then, if that's the case, yes. She answers to somebody and she's violating policy, then why does it bother you?
Well, I can't say that it bothers me, but I'm just wondering, as a older person.
No. Let's go back to the question. Why does it bother you?
Because she's naked.
Okay. Why does it bother you? Why does it bother you? Why does it bother you?
I don't think it bothers me. I just think it's inappropriate.
You're being less than honest. It bothers you because you went from dressing inappropriate to naked, and it's old, and you start using a lot of terms. So it does bother you to keep seeing her like that.
I just wonder if I'm supposed to address it. Am I supposed to say something to her as
there's a policy, she's violating company policy.
Mm-hmm.
She answers to somebody else. Under whose authority does she fall?
Well, she can make it bad for all of us.
No. Stay in line.
Okay.
Under whose authority does she fall?
Well, we're all independent contractors.
No. Hold on. Under whose authority does she fall?
Her own.
She answers to someone to have that contract, right?
He doesn't come down and check on us.
Let's go back again. Under whose authority does she fall?
Management.
Okay. That's their problem, not yours.
Okay. Can I say this? If somebody was to come down and check on us, then they could start making us all wear uniforms.
But you're adding that. You're adding that.
Okay.
But you're adding that because if it just says, if there's a dress code
Mm-hmm.
and there's a policy, then it's management's responsibility to enforce it according to each individual. If there's a policy in place, if there's a dress code, dress policy, then that's something they can look at what individuals are doing. what individuals are doing.
Mm-hmm.
But the burden of proof is on management. And so as a result, now, you can do her a tremendous favor. You can be a great asset, that you can talk to the Lord, that the Spirit of God will deal with her heart, that she comes to know him in a private, personal way. And if that were to happen, then she would make an adjustment without you ever having to say anything. Now, that's how you can help her.
Okay. She thinks she know him, though. But okay.
You're adding to. I just said in a private, personal way, which is different from global. Private, personal says, I want to please him, and that's totally different. We're not talking about somebody just going to church, because that doesn't work. That doesn't work.
Thank you, Pastor.
But again, that's another example of you can take things on, and they're not yours. I mean, I see stuff all the time with people, how they look and how they smell, and have the wrong scent for the wrong gender, and all of that. So I mean, I get all of that. So, but if they don't fall under my watch, then, and if I don't have a relationship, then it's like no. It's like I can intercede, but it's like hey, roll on, like roll on. Somebody eventually will, but I'm responsible for treating them with dignity in spite of it all. In spite of it all. Even if she is showing cracks and everything else, I'm still responsible for treating her with dignity. That really is it. See, so what we try to avoid is majoring on the minors, and stay focused. Just make sure you're found where you're supposed to be. If some other stuff won't even matter to you, because you become chief intercessor. Become chief intercessor. Right. Okay. All right. Father, we thank you for being patient with us and helping us to understand what changed life is, and how moment by moment, hour by hour, day by day, we have an opportunity to become more like you, as long as we know, learn, are taught, and just continue to embrace the truth. So ask that you will watch over those who are here as they go, and for those who have tuned in and those who will tune in at some point. And we thank you in Jesus' name.